7:30 this morning is fair enough. Well, I was already up. I didn't think you were awake by then. I usually don't start messaging people until about
Should we print out one of these for Barbara?
That's what we have to go by.
Well, mine's here just all real nice and neat.
For now. You
For
always
now.
gotta start out nice.
I know, and then it just goes to,
Where would I move to? Move down. Oh, boy.
I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order and ask you to silence your phones and ask the council to turn on your microphones, because we've been trying this, turn it off when you're not speaking, but we're apparently not getting through on the video. So if you don't mind, to leave it on, and then remember not to shuffle your papers. And right here at the beginning, I'd like to ask Chief Page if he would offer our invocation for tonight.
Heavenly Father God, we just come to you, Lord. We ask that you forgive us in the ways that we fail you, Lord. We offer up thanks for the rain that we've received, Lord. We ask that you be with our council tonight as they make decisions that affect our city. God, we ask that your will be done through all things. In the precious Son's name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have one item of interest tonight, and that is you, council, we have a fellow employee that it will be retiring this week. His name is Fausto Martinez. He's been here since 1998, March of 1998. It'll be 23 years, and he's retiring mostly for health reasons. So there will be a get-together from noon to 3 Thursday at the community center. If you could stop by and say goodbye to him or good luck, I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated. So with that, Bert, we're going to move on to the city manager's report and let you take it from there.
Sandy, I turned my mic on.
Thank you.
I was told last week by Nortex that they're ready to close out a community development block grant project. I told them that we are not ready because the trench on Wilbarger and South Mill Street were sinking and causing problems with traffic. We told the construction company that we were having problems, and I contacted the engineer to try to get the problem remedied, but no one was listening. When Nortex asked me to close out, I informed them that we are not pleased with the work that the construction company had done. Two people from Nortex came down last week, looked at the job, made photos, and said they were going to contact the construction company and engineer, and would have a face-to-face meeting to work out the problem. It did not go that far, in that the construction company came back the next day, uncovered the whole line, and started repacking the dirt in the hole so that the trench will not sink and the pavement will hold in place. Hopefully, they will do the job correctly this time. I figured that y'all were wondering why we were digging that out, and I told them we weren't going to close it out until they did it right. So, the ordinance in your packet raising the water and sewer tap fees might seem excessive, but we know that our cost for water and sewer taps has risen dramatically. Stoney put the numbers together last week showing the cost of a 1-inch and 2-inch water tap in town and the cost of a 2-inch tap in Silver Lake. I passed out a sheet showing the estimates, and the costs shown do not include labor, which should show you why we needed to increase these charges. With the passage of this ordinance, we'll be closer to a break-even point than before, but if parts costs continue to rise, we will come back to the council for another increase. We just monitor it closely. Tonight is the second reading of the ordinance authorizing the issuance of the revenue certificates for the loan. This is a culmination of years of work to try to qualify for the Texas Water Development Board loan for the sewer line repair. I've included in your packet the water and sewer rate study showing over the next 5 years the increases that we will have to make in order to make payments on the loan. We'll take up this sewer rate increase only at the next meeting. In other words, we're not going to have any other increases that we can see. I would hope that we can go ahead and pass the rate increases through 2026. This will ensure that the payments will be made and can be made. After 5 years, we'll need to do another rate study to determine what will need to be done in the future. We will go over the water and sewer rate study later in the meeting. I've been receiving complaints about our street repair, or rather lack thereof, and we're trying to fill potholes as fast as we can, but we're having problems getting the patch material, so it is taking longer than normal. Stoney finally got a load in this morning, so those guys cranked it up again. We're ready to start paving several streets where we have laid water lines, but we must wait until the rainy weather stops before we start. It's hard for me to complain about the rain, but we do need some dry weather to get the streets done. That's it. Anybody have any questions?
Everybody okay with that, council? If so, let's move on to the consent agenda items. You have the minutes from May 10th meeting, and you also have the write-offs for the electricity and the library. If there are no corrections on the minutes, I'd entertain a motion to accept these three items as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Lowe, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bell? Heffley?
Aye.
Gunner? Love?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Bell?
Aye.
And Higgins?
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 2021-01. Let me get to it so I can read it for you. Second reading of ordinance 2021-01, ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Bowie, Texas combination tax and surplus revenue certificates of obligation series 2021 in the principal amount of $9,775,000 and awarding the sale of such certificates of obligation to the Texas Water Development Board. So this is the second reading of this ordinance. Do you have any questions? Any discussion about this?
This is your last chance. I've been warning y'all that this point in time would come, so.
And Bert,
Yes.
we can do this prior to taking care of the clause regarding the sewer rates?
No, we can take up the sewer rate just so we pass it and enact it, and we're gonna do that at the next meeting.
Okay, so they don't have to be,
No,
okay.
Let me ask you a question. Because that's what I was looking at here. So if we pass this before we pass our increases, how are we going to know where we stand later on? Am I misunderstanding that, we're going to pass this ordinance for that right there, and then we're going to look at our increase in rates later on? And what, just for some reason it didn't pass, what does that mean to us?
well, if you don't pass the ordinance, they'll pull the bond.
Okay.
They won't sell them, so. But we don't have to do it now. We don't have to start collecting the sewer increase until October 1,
Okay?
based on their deal. But it's all contingent upon whether we do the sewer rate ordinance and increase those rates, so.
Okay, so what we're doing is buying a little time right now to,
No, we're not buying time. It just was not handy. I wanted y'all to have the numbers on the sewer rate increase in plenty of time, so you didn't have any questions about it. And, you can remember, I didn't get them to you until last Thursday because they were in the process of doing the rate analysis. And You know, I think it came out very well because no water increase, no electric increase, no tax increase. It's all gonna be laid on the sewer because that's what we're doing. We're doing a sewer project that the sewer rate is gonna pay for.
I understand that. I understand that. I'm just making it aware that, you know, we're under that understanding that we have.
Yeah, once you
know.
do this, we're locked in. We've gotta pass the rate increase. So.
Okay.
But I don't think that's news to anybody. We've been talking about it. Gonna have to do that through this whole process.
Well, how many years have we gone with the sewer department losing money and being
Years.
paid
Since
for
I've
out
been
of the
here.
electric department, huh?
We've been losing money since my day one. I figured that out right off, so.
I just want to, I'm trying to make it clear to the citizens what we're doing here, you know, is the reason I'm bringing this up, because we have gone a long time without any infrastructure repairs, you know, and it's sad to say that it's hitting all at one time, but they need to understand this plan is the best plan of attack to try to keep the cost down to the minimum and spread out over a period of time where it doesn't hit them so hard.
I mean,
You know, obviously, when we make a repair like this, somebody has to pay for it. It's not free money. We're gonna have to go out there and reach our citizens and make sure they understand. And if they want to continue to have proper sewage, drainage, and things like that, we don't have a lot of choice because it's gone too long, and the damages that we occur right now are,
Well, and people have been complaining about the roads for the 23 years that I've lived here, but we can't even start to fix the roads till we fix the sewers underneath them. Because the minute we fix the roads, the heavy equipment fixing the roads collapses the sewers, and we gotta rip the roads right back up again. So it's always been a vicious cycle of nothing ever really lasts. This is a permanent fix. We can start saving money long-term.
I agree 100%.
Then we did go after the grants. We tried to go after free money, it just wasn't out there. So we have to do this to get it done. So people want the roads fixed, they have to pay for them. That's plain and simple.
The cheapest way to get the roads fixed by spreading it out over 30 years and
Right.
you know, getting low-interest money instead of trying to come up with it all ourselves.
So with that, do I have a motion to move forward?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Love, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bates? Mr. Gunner?
Aye.
Love?
Aye.
Heffley?
Aye.
Bell?
Aye.
Higgins?
Aye.
And Bates?
Aye.
Thank you.
Turn off my microphone. Thank y'all, I appreciate it. That was 3 years of work consummated in one vote.
I like the term that Bert used to say, kicking the can down the road.
Do what?
But back before when we were on council, when he brought this to us, he told us to stop kicking the can down the road. I never will forget that.
I think I'll use that term a time or two.
I think we probably throw the can away now.
Well, I would like to say this, is that my previous time on the council, the one that some of our experienced councilmen that were on prior to myself, I asked them one evening, I said, in the past, what have we ever done to try to do repairs to our infrastructure over all these period of time? And when the answer was, well, we tried, we just never have done anything. Well, we could get some flack for doing something, but it's not gonna get any better.
Yeah.
If you don't
You're
make
right.
repairs, it's only gonna get worse, and they need to understand that.
Well, and this is 57,000 feet of sewer line. I mean, that's 10 miles, people. That's a lot. So we're making some
It'll go a
progress
long
here.
ways.
I'm very excited about this.
I'm waiting to the day that people start complaining about the construction. That'd be sweet words to my ears.
That's true. All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is, sorry about that. Second reading of ordinance 2021-02, an ordinance amending Chapter 11, Article 11.900, water and sewer tap fees of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bowie, Texas, increasing water and sewer tap fees, adding outside city limit fees, and adding the fee schedule for the tap fees to Appendix C of the Bowie Code of Ordinances, providing a savings clause, repealer clause, and providing an effective date. Do you need any discussion over this? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept this as presented.
So moved.
Ms. Higgins, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Heffley? Bell,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Love,
Aye.
Gunner,
Aye.
Heffley,
Aye.
and Higgins.
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item is ordinance 2021-03. It's also the second reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 4, Business and Commerce of the Code of Ordinance in the City of Bowie, amending Article 4.100, Vendors and Solicitors, Section 4.108, Insurance and Bond Requirement, deleting Section 4.109, Temporary Vending License for Special Events, amending Section 4.110, Exemptions, amending Section 4.111, Restrictions applicable to all vendors, and adding the fee schedule for vendors and solicitors to Appendix C of the Bowie Code of Ordinances, repealing any conflicting codes, ordinance, or orders, providing for a severability clause, adopting a savings clause, and determining that the ordinance was passed in accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act and establishing an effective date. This is the second reading. As you know, we did this last meeting. So I'd entertain a motion to accept as presented.
So moved.
Okay, so I'm going to give it to who? Heffley first, who seconds it?
I'll second it then.
Okay, Love. Gunner,
Aye.
Bell,
Aye.
Love,
Aye.
Higgins,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
and Heffley.
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 2021-04, an ordinance amending Chapter 4, Business and Commerce of the City of Bowie Code of Ordinances, amending Article 4.200, Mobile Food Vendors, Section 4.202, Mobile Food Units, deleting all of 1E, 4E, and K, amending 1, Location, J, and I, and adding the fee schedule for mobile food units to Appendix C of the City of Bowie Code of Ordinances, repealing any conflicting codes, ordinances, or orders, providing for a severability clause, adopting a savings clause, and determining that the ordinance was passed in accordance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act and establishing an effective date. This was also covered at the last meeting, so I would entertain a motion to accept as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Gunner? Ms. Bates?
Aye.
Love?
Aye.
Heffley?
Aye.
Bell?
Aye.
Higgins?
Aye.
And Gunner?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the second reading of ordinance 2021-05, an ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 4.1000, occasional or garage sales, deleting Section 4.1004, permit fee of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bowie, providing a savings clause, a repealer clause, and providing an effective date. And as you all know, we deleted the fee only, not the requirement for a permit. So I would entertain a motion to accept that as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gunner. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Bates. Love,
Aye.
Gunner,
Aye.
Higgins,
Aye.
Bell,
Aye.
Heffley,
Aye.
and Bates.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, now we're in the new business. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2021-19, a resolution authorizing and directing establishment of a Series 2021 co-construction fund with depository bank pursuant to bond ordinance, appointing authorized signatories with respect to such accounts and resolving other matters relating to the subject.
Me to handle this.
Yeah, you might as well.
This is basically tied to the ordinance, for the bonds that, we have to establish a bank account and who can sign the checks and all that sort of thing, so. And this requires a resolution, not necessarily an ordinance, so the mayor and I, and Sandy will be signing the checks, I'm sure, so that's what it's basically doing.
And that's clearly drawn out there in that resolution. So do I have a motion to accept as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Gunner?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Higgins?
Aye.
Heffley?
Aye.
Love?
Aye.
And Bell.
Aye.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the presentation of the water sewer rate. I hope that you are able to comfortably look over it, but Bert has had, or Sandy printed out all these copies for you to look at while we're discussing it. I would like to tell you that we were both pleasantly surprised when this came back from the professionals.
The first time we saw it in raw form, and that raw form tends to scare you to death, and the reason it does is because it was a bunch of financial statements, and as we went through the process of him explaining the study, I just thought, I hope he doesn't do this like he's doing it, and he didn't. He put it in some simple English that even I can understand. So, as you can see from the report, it's pretty self-explanatory. I have gone through it time and time again. If any of you have any questions, need to know anything about how the process worked, I have a little experience in that I could figure out each year that we were losing money in sewer, so I did an analysis kind of like they did, but I don't have all the computer software stuff that they did, but I'd sit there ciphering with all my fingers and toes and figured out that, that basically what I came up with is what they came up with. And what you have to have is you have to have enough money to operate on, to cover our loss last year, every year, and to make the first payment. The increase that we are seeing, the first increase will be basically to make the first payment, and which is an interest payment. And by the way, I got some new paperwork from the Water Development Board, and our interest rate went down from 2.17 and a whole bunch of numbers to 2.13. So, it's a minuscule amount, but it's money we don't have to pay. So we picked an opportune time to do it. But basically, I can just say this: if you have any questions about the study, it's pretty self-explanatory. But as you can see, the main things I'd like to point out and what a lot of people ask about is how do we compare with other cities? Well, he did that in the process, showing a 5,000 gallon water bill, what that that does to us. And as you can see, we're lower than the middle of the pack. We're right now, we're in pretty good shape. And then when we start our increases, we still don't go to the top. We stay pretty much in the middle. We go a little higher and a little higher, but it's still a good comparison. On page 8 is the rates themselves. As you can see, most of the increase the first year is to make that interest payment, and then the second year there's another equally sizable increase, and what that'll do is that'll get us up in the area where we can make the complete bond payment each year. And subsequently in 2024, 25, and 26, there will be an increase, but it's basically an insignificant amount compared to the first two. So, and we'll go from being toward the bottom in the comparison of a 5,000 gallon bill. We'll go from fourth from the bottom up to fifth from the top, but it's still a good comparison, and we're in really good shape. So I'm well pleased in where we'll be, and you can see from his charts that our revenue will if it continues like it is, we'll be able to make the bond payments without any problem. Now, one thing that I do need to point out to you, and I'll tell you what page it's on. On page 5 and 6, there is a requirement in the bond that we have a 10% reserve. Basically, we have to have a 1.1 times debt service requirement. So there will always be a little reserve money left over at the end of each year. As time goes along, we can either use that money to retire debt, or we can, if we need to do some sort of maintenance or something on something else, we can also use it for that. But we have to do that over the period of 30 years. We've got to have 1.1 times what the debt payment is. If we decide to borrow some money from something else, we have to increase that to 1.25 times, which is the same thing again. 1.25 gives us a cushion in order so that we follow the requirements of the Water Development Board. Anybody got any questions?
Two things, Bert, just for anybody that gets their hands on this, the page 9 where you mentioned that we're going, top of the middle instead of bottom of the middle. That's assuming that nobody else on that page raises their rates over the next 3 years.
Exactly.
Right.
So if they raise their rates, we may be back down to the bottom of the middle. So, I mean, it's not quite apples and apples. I'm not sure anybody's, with the increase in all of supplies going on, I'm doubting everybody on this list is going to be able to keep from raising their rates. So we may wind up staying exactly where we are, even though we're raising our rates. And then the second question I've got is this going to be out on our website where everybody can get to it so they'll understand the numbers the way we do?
I don't know.
That's a good idea.
We can post it on the website.
I
Yeah,
think it
that's a
would be a
great
good idea so that people can understand what we're talking about.
I asked Kevin Lerner to come tonight to explain anything, because he is our government funding advisor. So, Kevin, have you got anything to say
I
about
mean,
this?
it's very self-explanatory. I just think that we need to get it out there.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and Bowie staff. I'm Kevin Lerner. I'm with Government Capital Corporation. We're your financial advisor of record here, and been working with Bert, I guess, the last 3 years trying to put this Texas Water Development Board project together. So, as you said, Jason, it's not free money, but it's the next best thing. It's cheap money. It's the cheapest money available to do projects like this. And so when we're looking at the city's ability to repay this debt, you want to look at all the different revenue sources available to the city. And since this is a sewer project, you want to focus on your water and sewer being able to support itself. And as you have discussed, in years past, it has not. It's been losing progressively more and more and more and more money each year. So, it's something you really need to take a look at. You are taking a look at. We recommended, I wasn't comfortable, Government Capital wasn't comfortable. We're financial analysts. We're not rate study specialists. And so we strongly urged Bert and the council to take a look at having a professional put these numbers together, which they've done. So it gives you an idea where you stand in comparison to all the relative communities around you. And you're right, Ms. Higgins, you don't know. They may change their rates, and I don't think anybody's going to bring their rates down, so it's all going to be going up. Has no effect at all, or suggested no change to your water rates. That was a pleasant surprise. But the sewer rates do need some updating. This is property of the city. You bought and paid for this study. It'll be reimbursed, or possibly, if you'd like to be reimbursed, from the proceeds from the Texas Water Development Board low interest rate loan you've just approved. So posting it on your website, that is your call. It's your information, your data. You can do what you want. I didn't author this study. I'm not a rate study specialist, but I can address most all the questions or most all the data that's in it, if you've got anything specific.
Okay, so I've got a question. So this rate increase is going to get the sewer department out of the red at a profit of 0, plus the payment for what we just passed, the 9.7.
Right.
So there's no problem. It's just basically, it's just an increase also. You get it out of the red and then, just to make clear, out of the red and then also just to pay, like the payment.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
No, that is not correct.
Well, you've got a
That's
one.
not correct.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
plus the reserve.
Plus the reserve.
Yes,
That's
okay.
important to know.
Yeah, the 110, the 110 coverage is for every dollar of debt or payment, you've got $1.10 worth of revenue to give you a little bit of buffer. And any new debt that the city should incur, this is a 30-year obligation, so any new debt that you should elect to incur in future years will have to have a 125 coverage.
Okay.
That's a requirement of the Texas Water Development Board, for them to give you this low-interest loan. So if you should issue any additional debt in future years for anything else, they just require that you have the ability to not only make the payment, but have 125% of that revenue available
Right.
through
Give me-
whatever source.
What would be an example of that, of their debt? That if we needed to incur
If
another
you wanted
debt?
to build a new city hall and it was $10 million and you wanted to issue certificates of obligation, the city would have to have the revenue to not only make the debt service, whatever, if the payment was, for example purposes, $100, you'd have to have $125 of available revenue, whether it's ad valorem tax, whether it's.
Understand the increase. I'm trying to think in the future what we might need, that we'd need to incur more debt.
New roads.
New roads, new equipment, there's a lot of things. If you recall, when I first got here, we bought excavator, we bought a lot of equipment that we borrowed money for. If we do anything else like that, that will increase that requirement to 1.25.
125 is not unusual. When we did the financing for the additional equipment, it was a couple of $100s. We offered the loan to any of the local banks. Almost any lender's requirement, they're going to look and say, I want the city to have $125 for every $100 of debt. That's not unusual. 125.
Well, that's actually just a 0.15 increase.
Correct.
Is all it is.
They want you to have just a little bit, you don't want to operate, having every dollar spent that you could possibly have in income.
So I noticed here on the base rate, we're just going up less than, a little bit over $3 for the first year. And over the, 6, 7 years, it's only going to be going up less than $10, the base rate. So so are we going to lock this in to where it automatically goes up these years? That way future councils don't have
That
to
is
come
my
back?
hope, that
Okay.
you guys will, when we bring you an ordinance, it will have the incremental rates already
Right.
built into it. So when you pass that ordinance, for the next 5 years, October 1, the rate will increase what is on here.
Right.
That
So-
way you don't have a council that had no idea or wasn't involved in this, making decision. Plus, it also shows that we're putting together a plan, forward-thinking plan.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yes, that is the hope, is that you will want to do
I'd like to
the
see us do
5-year.
that. That way,
Leading into a
future
5-year
councils
plan.
don't have to, deal with it or the burden, and we can just take care of it now, so.
To give y'all an example, I've been around a long time, y'all know that, and I know I'm an old guy, but back in early 80s, the expansion on Amy Carter Lake was financed by the Texas Water Development Board. In the 90s, when I was mayor, Texas Water Development Board financed the water plant and the sewer plant. So we have a lot of experience with them, and it's like any bank, they know we're going to pay our bills, so that makes it a little easier when you start talking to somebody. They're familiar with Bowie because we've done a lot of financing, and it's the best way to go. It's the cheapest money, and we fulfilled our obligation. The water, sewer, and plant and the lake have been paid off for years, and we're still operating them, and everything's in good shape. So it's just the best way to go. So.
And it's a rate increase all the way across the board, residential, small business, medium, large?
Yes.
Okay, so it's, okay, all right. Or that we plan on doing, I'm sorry, it hasn't gone through.
It will be, if it's
Yeah.
approved, it'll be a rate increase. That sheet that you have covers everything that
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have right now.
Okay.
And this is also on the one I look at the most is residential, because that's who the biggest majority of our customers are, and it's on an average of a $5,000, 5,000 gallon a month usage, so.
We have a lot of customers that are less than that. The average usage is a little bit less than 5,000 gallons, but that, anytime you're doing a rate study, that's usually what they do. But the average usage is probably around 4,500 gallons, something like that. But they use 5 gallons as a benchmark, 5,000 gallons as a benchmark to do it.
So according to this rate increase, a normal resident that uses 5,000 gallons of water, it's going to go up $3 for the base rate, and then roughly 54 cents per 1,000 gallons.
The first year, yes.
So we're looking at possibly a $7 increase
Right.
on each month, so, okay.
And
I
that's
think
on
we can live
average,
with that.
because people are gonna use more water in the summertime and less water in the wintertime, but it's gonna average out to those numbers, so.
I think we can live with that, that's, hopefully,
Well, we're fulfilling our obligation to our citizens, too.
right.
At any rate, we'll have this on the agenda for the next meeting to vote on.
Does anybody have any more questions for Kevin?
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. And as you see, this is just for discussion tonight.
Yes.
Like I said, we'll bring you back an ordinance to the next meeting. So if you come up with any questions that you have between now and the next meeting, just call Bert or me. We'll answer any questions you have.
And the people at New Gen Strategies that did the study are available at any time. All I have to do is call them and ask them a question. So if it's something I can't cover, they can, so.
So are we through with this discussion? Is it okay if I move on? All right, so let's consider the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning on the request for Kinson Vance Dynamic Duo to replat lots 13 and 14, Block 2 of the Holman Edition, creating lots 13R and 14R, Block 2, Holman Edition. Sorry, I was trying to look sideways out my reading glasses. That wasn't working.
All right,
Mr. Calabretta is here to answer any questions that you guys may have.
okay. Planning and Zoning Commission met on May 20th, and we had a quorum. We did discuss this, and we approved the replatting of the lots as stated in your list there. Really what is going on here, if you have your map of it, you notice that the lots 13 and 14 were long, narrow lots along Gray Street, and what they did is they split those into, they combined the two and then split them in half so they're more rectangular than long, narrow strip lots. And they're going to have residences on both of those lots.
So we didn't get a copy of that, but you're just saying there's changing the,
Changing the
You
shape.
got a
of-
copy?
I didn't get a copy.
It's separate attachment.
It's in your email. It's a
Oh,
separate
okay.
attachment.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm not very computer savvy. I wish we'd go back to the printed stuff.
Don't say that out loud.
Yeah. You know, I was one of the ones that thought the iPads would be a great idea, now I don't like them. So,
You're big enough to say, huh?
I'm not, okay, so we're just changing shapes.
Just changing shape.
Okay,
There were two lots that were long and narrow.
Yes, sir.
Now there are two lots that are more rectangular.
okay.
Instead of the, I mean, long and narrow is rectangular, but this, more shape that's suitable for two houses to be on the property. And if you have other questions, Mr. Vance is here, you can ask him if you'd like.
So basically, the lots are, I mean, you could, if you didn't change them, you could still put houses on them.
Yes.
So, to me, the shape shouldn't make any difference with, if,
Right.
I would agree, it'd be better to make them look nicer than having an ill-arranged shape on a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you, okay. I'm sorry, it was at the end of the email, I just didn't go down that far. So, thank you.
All right.
Anybody have any questions? Anybody want to talk to Mr. Vance about this? Would you like to speak up, sir?
Any questions?
So there's an explanation for doing this.
Are we building new single-family homes, or?
We are. They're tiny homes. It's in a commercially zoned area. The intent was initially to put two tiny homes on the property and sell it as a unit. We were approached by a family, mother and father and a son. The son needs to do a mortgage on one of the homes, and the mother and father are going to pay cash. So dividing lots the way that we're looking to do so is the only valid way to make them work.
So there's only going to be one home per lot, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you, Kenson.
Thank you.
And as Mr. Calabretta said, this came recommended from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll make a motion to pass it as presented.
Thank you. Well, I got to get back to that page. It's all the way at the bottom. Okay, Mr. Love makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bates? Heffley?
Aye.
Gunner?
Aye.
Love?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Bell? And Higgins?
Aye.
Wow, thank you. All right, the last item on the agenda is to open the floor to public comments. Do we have anybody who would like to go to the podium for public comments?
Glenda Durham, Precinct 3. I submitted a question to the city manager through the city secretary, several questions about the Mill Street Lamb, Nelson Street project. I'm not sure why that was not addressed, because, I followed your rules.
If
And,
you'll come to my office and ask the same questions, I'll answer them for you.
well, it's not made public at that point. That's the beauty of a
Well, you'll
council
probably
meeting.
make it public over Facebook, so same thing.
Well, excuse me. I mean, this is a business meeting. It's not a personal meeting. Another question that I have is I've asked several times, I know you've been focused on water sewer projects and funding, but how about our parks? I think that our city parks are a critical element to nurturing our families, and it serves a lot of different purposes for our community in terms of recreation. But the landscaping on a regular basis, the equipment upgrades, we have a problem, and it's just not an opinion problem. I think we have a lot of new people coming in. I don't think that it's necessarily a latent problem, but there's a lot of drug use activity. You can see that in the parks, paraphernalia that's on the ground, cigarette butts, that kind of stuff. But I think our children deserve better. I think our families deserve better, and I think we can do better. So I'm going to ask you that question again. How about regular landscaping and upgrading the equipment? Thank you so much.
Dylan, would you like to speak?
Dylan Steen. As far as the parks, I can speak on behalf of the Parks Board, the newly elected Parks Board. We just met 2 weeks ago, and all of the city parks will be being addressed. As far as drug use, trash, everything like that, we rely on our good Bowie Police Department to take care of their job, and seeing as I have a scanner at home and listen to it all night long, they do their jobs very well. Can't police people not being adults and picking up after themselves, though. But obviously, with all of the rain, a lot of repairs, painting, new equipment, and everything else will be addressed when somebody can actually stand outside for longer than 5 minutes without getting soaking wet. I have worked with Clyde closely in the past. Him and Bonnie, all of their staff within the Parks Department have always been extremely helpful, extremely flexible to be wherever, the Parks Board or even volunteer groups such as Bob has asked them for help. They've always been right on the money. So we definitely expect to kick up a lot of the parks all over the city and get things started for more things for the youth and other than just some grass and a bench. So just everybody try to have a little patience with us and Mother Nature. And we've got a lot of good people on the Parks Board now that have a lot of high energy. And that's not saying there wasn't good people on the Parks Board in the past. The past year with the Rona really messed up a lot of things. Even Bob, as a volunteer group, we could not get out and gather together to get anything done because of that. So just have patience, have faith in the people of this community that they'll kick in. We always do. We always do. And as far as any street repairs, any water bills, anything like that, because we know there's going to be a social media nightmare that comes out the minute you said increase. I live on the south side of town. Our sewer lines are crap over there, and we know that. If you have to attach $50 to my water bill every month, Bert, to get new sewer lines on that side of town, do it, and I won't complain a bit.
Dylan,
Because
I
it
might
takes,
do that.
I don't care. I don't even care, because, I may sound like a small town hick that doesn't understand business at all, but it takes money to do repairs. It takes money to, dig up streets, repair sewer lines, then put new streets back down on top of them. Everybody always wants to talk about, well, we don't get this done, we don't get that done, but we don't want to spend no money. Well, you can't have both. If you're not going to spend the money, you're not going to get sewer line repairs, you're not going to get street repairs. You're not going to get new businesses and new people coming to town because they don't want to. It takes money to make money, and it takes money to run a city as a business. And that's from a private citizen who I love my taxes every year. So, add it on there, Bert, I don't care.
You better be glad I don't have anything to do with the billing department.
Do I have any more public comments? If not,
Oh, I got one.
oh, go ahead.
Y'all don't call my office Thursday or Friday or the next Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm gonna be on vacation. But if y'all have a tornado while I'm gone, I'm gonna shoot all of you.
Oh, my
You're
goodness.
trying to tempt Mother Nature, Bert.
I think I'm going to call the meeting at 7:45. Thank you. 6:45.
Terry, I don't know if you remember, man, you and I went to college together.
They went to college together?
I don't really do much, I'm not actually here after that.
Barbara. Good.